This time, it's a story somewhat like the ant and the grasshopper. It might apply to life as well, but also to countries. There are times when a country is doing well, and during those good times, there's a tendency to mistakenly believe that it will last forever. If you ride that wave without considering long-term strategies, when the peak passes, it can lead to catastrophic consequences. In the case of the ant and the grasshopper, this would be the grasshopper. In short, if you don't use your surplus during the good times to prepare for the future, you'll find yourself helpless when things start to go wrong. This is exactly what's happening in China right now. Specifically, China's middle class and even the wealthy, who were sitting on a bubble, are facing serious troubles. To explain it in more detail, when the Chinese economy was booming, people were consuming heavily. For example, when buying real estate or apartments, many people would purchase properties that stretched their financial limits. Why did so many people do this? For one, they believed that their income would continue to increase indefinitely. Another reason was to show off, "Look at this great house I live in." A kind of pride. These factors combined, leading people to take out loans that pushed their limits and make extravagant purchases. This behavior actually served as a significant driver for the Chinese economy. People were buying more than they needed, consuming up to their financial limits, and purchasing expensive goods for the sake of status, even if the items themselves weren't that valuable. This led to a temporary economic boom, inflating the bubble. However, while a small portion of the population enjoyed this prosperity, many others were left behind in poverty. Japanese media only highlighted the successful individuals and presented China's economy as being incredibly strong, saying that the age of China had arrived. But if China had seriously addressed poverty within the country during those good economic times, the domestic economy would have been far more sustainable. In reality, the prosperity was limited to a small group, making the economic boom unsustainable. As a result, the bubble has begun to burst, and businesses targeting the middle and upper middle classes are now struggling. I've mentioned this in previous discussions, but there's a food ingredient in China called bird's nest, which is almost unheard of in Japan but is commonly sold in China. Actually, it might be more accurate to say that it used to be sold all over China. This ingredient is now facing a major downturn, and people are paying attention to this development. First, let's take a look at some examples. The company that makes bird's nest products in China is called Swallow's Nest, which roughly translates to swallow's house in Japanese. I'll also show you some images of stores carrying their products later. It's a massive company and is quite famous in China because they advertise heavily using celebrities. Although Japanese people don't know about it, since bird's nest isn't commonly consumed here, it's a big name in China. This company recently released its financial report for the first half of this year, and what's interesting is how the media focuses on different aspects of the report. Depending on which part they emphasize, the impression can change drastically. The first article highlights the sharp drop in revenue, with a headline showing a decline of 60.41%. This can be misleading because the actual situation is more nuanced than the title suggests. The next article mentions that sales increased by 11.36%, which might give a positive impression if you only look at the headline. However, this isn't the full story either. Another article focuses on the significant drop in profits. This is the most important aspect of the company's performance this year. Depending on what part of the financial report the media focuses on, the company's situation can seem either good or bad. This applies to how China is often reported too. By only showing the prosperous parts of China, the media can make the economy appear much stronger than it actually is. Now, let's look at what kind of products this company sells. The company is called Swallow's Nest, and they mainly produce bird's nest products for expectant mothers. They have booths like this set up in department stores across China. In Japan, bird's nest is almost unheard of, but with the increasing Chinese population in Japan, we might start seeing these booths in Japanese department stores too. Personally, I hope that doesn't happen. In China, bird's nest is considered a high-end health food, primarily given as gifts. In China, there's a wide range of high-end health foods, not just bird's nest, but also expensive traditional Chinese medicine items like ginseng and caterpillar fungus, sold in regular department stores. People in China often buy these items as gifts when visiting their parents, business associates, or friends. However, this year, sales have dropped, especially in physical stores, even though online sales have increased. While total sales rose by 11.36%, it's misleading to think that everything is fine just because sales went up. As I've explained before, you can't celebrate higher sales unless you also look at profits, and in this case, profits have plummeted by 44%. So, While Bird's Nest is still being sold, the overall demand is shrinking. Many companies in the industry are struggling, and while this one major player might be growing, it's coming at the expense of smaller competitors. Moreover, people are starting to realize that Bird's Nest doesn't actually provide noticeable health benefits, and experts are saying that, for the same money, buying beef would offer much greater nutritional value. So, many of the people who used to buy Bird's Nest were essentially paying for the image, thanks to celebrity endorsements and cultural prestige. However, now that the Chinese economy is slowing down, people are starting to reconsider whether it's really worth spending so much money on Bird's Nest.